In this video, we're going to talk about the Zhiyun Crane M2, Crane M3, and the Weeble S. And you're probably going to wonder, why am I comparing the Weeble S to a smaller gimbal? Well, stay tuned and I'll let you know why. As a note, this video is not a technical video. This video will concentrate on tech, travel gear, and how it pertains to making your travel videos better. We will talk about the three most famous gimbals that's on the market: the Crane M2, the Crane M3, Weeble S, all by Zhiyun. If you already have a Zhiyun Crane M2 and you're watching all these videos showing the Crane M3, maybe some of the bigger gimbals like the Weeble S and the Weeble 2, if you ask yourself, is it worth spending another $300–400 for the new Crane M3 and or the Weeble S? Because I asked the same question, and if you're wondering the same thing, well, they're all good points. But before we talk about the gimbals, what is a gimbal? Maybe you don't know, maybe you do. It's a mechanism that's consisting of rings pivoted at right angles for keeping an instrument such as a compass or a chronometer horizontal in a moving vessel. The compass or chronometer is your camera, and the moving vessel is basically you moving around, actually walking around vlogging like what I'm doing. Ultimately, the goal is to stabilize your film footage, and most mobile cameras, action cameras, and traditional cameras do have some form of stabilization on them. Like, for instance, the camera that I'm filming on, which is the Sony ZV-E10, does have some stabilization with it, but at times it may not be good enough for what you're trying to accomplish. And personally, when somebody goes the extra mile to produce a stabilized image or stabilized film on YouTube, I tend to watch it more, and you may feel the same way. Some people get turned off by, you know, the constant rocking, the up and down movement of a camera when somebody's trying to prove a point. Originally, this was my original gimbal. This is the Zhiyun Crane M2, and it actually worked very, very well. Back then, I had a small APS-C Canon M6, which is similar, probably lighter than the Sony ZV-E10. So really, I really didn't need anything else. I did have, at that time, I had a Sony a7 III, which I was able to balance on this little thing. Now, you couldn't do any fancy stuff with the gimbal, but I was able to use my Sony a7 III, which was a full frame camera with a pretty big lens. It was a Zeiss Batis 40 millimeter and a Zeiss Batis 18 millimeter. Now, I thought the 18 millimeter was heavier than the 40 millimeter. I was able to use this with no problems, and that's all I really needed at that time. With the introduction of the Weeble S, I was super impressed with some of the reviews on YouTube, and I decided, let me go ahead and purchase it. And it was perfect. Balancing using the Sony a7 III was just perfect. A couple of things that I liked about the Weeble S versus the Weeble 2. On the Weeble 2, there's basically no locking system. So it's either you have the camera on and you balance it, and then you turn it on and you're good to go. When I learned about the Weeble S and how you're able to lock these access points and still be able to function, I said that is exactly what I'm looking for. If you can imagine my camera being on here, balanced, and then I'm filming around and I'm thinking, okay, I need to go to the restroom. What I would do is, while the camera is on here, I would put it in the lock position, in this fancy lock position. Now it's locked. I don't know if you can imagine that the camera is here, and I would have this strap, and I would strap it on my back. And if you notice, the gimbal is now in a secure parked position. And again, if you can imagine the camera here, I would basically take this whole mechanism and I would put it behind me, and then I would go to the bathroom, I would get something to eat, I would walk around securely knowing that the gimbal and my camera is now secure. Along came the crane, the Zhiyun Crane M2, which was, to me, revolutionary for a couple of reasons. One, it would go into this lock position, which is great. Yes, can you fit a full frame camera on here with a Sony FX3? And if you notice, it balances very, very well. And this is one of the reasons why I bought the Sony FX3, because it doesn't have that eyepiece, and you can go into these modes without worrying about crashing your eyepiece. It definitely balances. Would I use this to go into vortex mode? The answer is no. I'm not even going to attempt it here. When I was ready to park this, and I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off. I'm going to put it on its stand, and then when I lock it, no issues. Unfortunately, when it comes to using my strap, it doesn't function the same way that the Weeble S functions. And then now I could put this around my shoulder, strap around my whole back. And again, I use this, one, if I accidentally drop the whole mechanism, because it is pretty heavy, I don't want it hitting the floor. And number two, when you're traveling in all sorts of different cities, I always like to feel secure with my gear, and having a strap is my security, at least my minimal security. Can you park this the way it is? I guess you can, but I'm so used to moving this into the original park position of the Weeble S, and when you try to park it into the mode, the arm actually hits. So now the only way to park it is to actually take it out of its normal balance and then park it, and now you're in this somewhat of a park mode, which I started questioning, should I get rid of my Crane M2 and spend another $369 on the new Crane M3, or should I just stick with my Weeble S and use this for both my APS-C camera and be able to use my full frame camera, which is the Sony FX3. If you're wondering why I have two microphones, I will be talking about that in the next video, so stay tuned for that. And actually the video after that will be another interesting video. I'm going to introduce a action camera that everybody on the internet has dumped into the garbage can. Ultimately, the big question is, one, is it worth investing in the Zhiyun Crane M3? The short answer is yes. If you're on a certain budget and you're trying to minimize your expenses, then for the same price, I've seen the Weeble S, the Zhiyun Weeble S, actually cheaper than the Crane M3. But I've proven today that there are alternatives to just buying the Crane M3. Personally, if you already have the M2, you may not want to buy the M3. Or if you already have the Weeble S, investing in the new Crane M3 may not be the most logical answer. If you got the funds, I say go for it. It's all about toys anyway. If you like this video and you're interested in travel related gear and traveling to different cities in the US, maybe Canada, maybe Europe, don't know yet, I suggest subscribing. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really help if you would do that. It does help the channel and it does support my cause, which is explaining the benefits of traveling in light gear. So this is Nestor with Group 3. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. And then now I could put this around my shoulder and I could